Welcome back to Let's Talk Business Phoenix, the Greater Phoenix Chambers podcast. I'm your host, Todd Sanders, President and CEO of the Greater Phoenix Chamber. Throughout each episode, we're going to explore key issues impacting our businesses, our community, and our state, highlighting opportunities for growth, addressing some challenges, and bringing leaders together to continue moving Phoenix forward. Let's jump into today's discussion. Welcome back to the podcast. We are thrilled to have Dr. Michael Crow here with us today visiting. He's been here, I think, one time before a few years ago. A lot's changed, so thrilled to have you. Thank you for coming on.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
Well, I mentioned before we started that you're probably unique among university presidents in terms of the way you think and the way you operate. What are you thinking about these days? What are some of the things that are occupying your time?
Well, I think the opportunity we have at this moment as we're traversing our evolutionary history as a country is we have an opportunity to figure out how to, in our case at ASU, to accelerate our unique design, which is a university that is powerfully accessible across the entire society, trying to connect to every family, yet at the same time is as good as any research university ever made or ever built, Oxford, Cambridge, anyone. And so right now, with the focus on America First, with the focus on trying to get back to high levels of economic growth, trying to get back to 4, 5, 6% per year on a steady, ongoing basis, trying to deal with the issues of potential disruption in the labor markets from artificial intelligence and so forth and so on. So the focus that I have and the focus that we have is how can we be quicker, more agile, of better service, better design, and more impact on our community.
I did a quick and dirty Michael Crow analysis with my friend ChatGPT, and it was interesting. What the one thing they said about you was that you're not a caretaker, you're an institutional architect.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, so it turns out that a lot of universities, because they've been around so long, they're some of the longest standing institutions. Harvard helped create the United States. William and Mary helped create the United States. They precede the country. So universities are long-standing institutions, which, change for them is episodic over long periods of time. And out here in Arizona, we needed a new kind of design. The standard university design for universities wasn't going to work for the future of Arizona. So my role, I think the reason I was hired 24 years ago, was to be an architect of a new kind of university that could be powerfully connected to the future of Arizona and thus to the future of the United States in a quick, scalable, agile, new kind of way. So that's ChatGPT's probably picked up on that.
I think so. And I do. I remember you coming. I was at the legislature. You coming, I think, to meet with the legislature for the first time when you were in the process, and thinking about what ASU looked like then and what it looked like today. It's almost unrecognizable.
Yeah, ASU then 24 years ago was a solid regional sort of middleweight research university, struggling with its being trapped in a model that didn't really work anymore. So we sort of saw that earlier. We had low retention, low graduation rates, lower than we needed. We hadn't been innovative enough as we might be. We hadn't research intensified. We hadn't become connected to the sort of economic future of Phoenix at the scale that we needed to be. So it was a solid platform that needed to be engineered to now take on this whole new kind of scaled mission.
Well, and you mentioned Harvard and some of these other Ivy Leagues, and their model seems to be a less is more. And early on, you adopted a more is more model where you wanted to educate as many people as possible and be not exclusive. You wanted to be open to everybody. What drove you there?
Well, so Arizona is really a wonderful place in many, many ways. But one of the ways is that it's a place built on egalitarianism. So it's a place built on, we built this place for everyone. And so when you come here, you realize that it's not like other places with historic social classes and groups of people that have been in dominant power for 10 generations and, communities that, ethnic communities that are dominant politically. Here it's sort of post-ethnic and just completely wide open. So what that means then relative to the design of a university here is that it's going to be different. It's not going to be based on, well, all the rich kids get to go to some Ivy League school or some New England 4-year college. And so here you have this opportunity to build something I think that's more in tune with the founders' logic for the country, which is, those inalienable rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness that meant for everyone. And it also said, among others. And so we added to those learning. Learning is in the longer list that they wrote that they didn't include in the preamble to the Declaration. but the longer list does include learning. And so what we've tried to do is to build an unbelievably democratic, unbelievably egalitarian, meaning
Yes.
accessible to anybody, institution, and you can do that in Arizona, and I don't think you could do that in other places.
So if in a parallel universe, which we know exists,
Of course.
And Michael Crow is the head of Northwestern, would it be a different model? Would it not be the more is more model? Would it be more of a less is more model? You think?
I came from one of those universities.
I know,
I came
Columbia.
from Columbia University, and one of my missions there was to make it more valuable to the city of New York. So there is a way to make every university more of more, without necessarily increasing the size of the student body, but by increasing the access to the institution. So if I was talking to Peter Barris, my friend who's the chair of the board of Northwestern, which I would say, Peter, Northwestern has an unbelievable opportunity to become, it already is a great university, but to become this university that changes the trajectory, not just of Metro Chicago, but of the whole industrial trajectory and social trajectory of the United States. And I think that universities, in my view, should be more focused on the success of the country as a function of the success of their students and their faculty than the success of their students and their faculty.
I want to come back to this in a minute. You mentioned the 24 years. What are some of the biggest changes you've seen in Arizona in that time, outside of what you've accomplished at ASU?
Made great progress in stimulating innovation, attracting innovation. We've made great progress in a lot of things. We've also not made progress in certain other things. Healthcare outcomes are not what we would like them to be. Per capita GDP needs to continue to accelerate.
Which is something you've talked about since you've gotten here.
Yeah. I always wonder, why up in Colorado, just a few hours drive away, they have a 25% higher per capita GDP. And I always get some sorry set of excuses in Arizona that I don't believe. They'll say, well, it's this or that, and I'm like, no, it's not that. It has to do with, we haven't found a way yet to grow our own highly educated, capable, and technically capable people, not just college educated, but technically educated. So we import so many people. So we have a low college growing rate. We have a low pathway. Colorado has the opposite, a high college going rate, a high college success rate. And we haven't figured that out yet. And we haven't figured it out for a lot of reasons, and we need to. People are wrong when they think that education isn't the key to economic success or health success or lifespan success. It is. It's not just a variable that's predictive. It's correlated. So educational attainment does help determine life outcomes. Not only, but it's very important. And so in Arizona, we strive for innovation. We strive for individual decision making. We strive for choice in the K-12 system.
Sure.
All of that, but we don't hold our investments and our investors and we don't hold people accountable for outcomes. So in Arizona, we still let kids drop out of high school. Oh, okay, we let a kid at 16 drop out of high school. Well, we might as well just write a check that day to cover about 3/4 of that person's costs going forward.
Much more expensive.
Not just that, but a huge majority of the uncovered healthcare costs, the costs of more than 70% of the people in prison are high school dropouts, and we don't need to have any high school dropouts. We can get everyone through high school. We can get everyone through high school. We can get everyone technically trained. I don't mean literally every person, but essentially 99.9% of the people can get to the level where they can be adaptive and engaged in the society from having training across their life. We have too rigid of a system. So one of the things that we haven't done in Arizona is that we haven't found a way to be as innovative. We're very innovative, but we haven't found a way to be as innovative as we could be, should be, or need to be.
To meet our potential.
Yes.
Let me go to that point about education and success in life. And I think you're preaching to the choir, but I think nationally there seems to be a mood, this sort of populist streak that's running through the country, just in DC this week. And it felt like there is almost an antagonistic attitude towards higher education. Speak to that. Do you agree? If so, where do we need to go?
We got several problems in higher education. One is underperformance overall. Now you got to remember, higher education is 1,400 institutions that give bachelor's degrees, 5,000 other institutions that give other kinds of technical certificates and degrees. So we have thousands and thousands and thousands of institutions. Higher education. I mean, if you go to mechanics school, you still are eligible for federal student loans and federal student aid. And so it's not just about college. What we have done is we found a way to screw everything up by making hierarchical all educational attainment. That's a mistake. By prizing the most the scarcest assets, those places that let in the fewest number of people.
Back to the discussion we were having a minute ago.
Right. So we value those two things. We overvalue those things, and then so what's happened is that I think that much of the frustration about higher education is derivative of disappointment. The majority of people that have gone on to higher education have no diploma and no certificate. Well, you can't have that. And that's a terrible outcome. That's not true of places like ASU or U of A or NAU, but that's true of many places, if not most places. Number two, we have to be focused on the success of the United States first, not only, but first. And the success of the United States means then, therefore, we have to be concerned about if K-12 schools are underperforming and we're producing all of the teachers, then that's our fault. Well, we should own it. We shouldn't blame some other group. We should blame, we produce the teachers, we produce the superintendents, we produce the principals. We ought to own that. Not only, or not exclusively, but we ought to own that. We ought to, in higher education, not be thinking somehow that we're like, smarty pants. Our job is to take on certain things that require a higher level of a certain type of education, but that's not a better kind of education than a highly skilled person who's working in a technical trade or working in a building trade or working in cooking our food and doing all the other things that makes our lives, important and fun and so forth. This hasn't come from the colleges, but our society doesn't respect people across the spectrum, and it's a huge, huge social error.
Where does that come from?
And I think it comes from England.
Okay.
I think it comes from our inherited European
class system.
Culture. Yes, the class system, and so it's terrible. It's unbelievable. I grew up in a working class family, so I know what it's like to be on the other side of things. Let me also say though that one of the issues that we have in universities is that people will see something happen at one university somewhere, and then they'll think, well, that's all those universities are crazy. Or there'll be some kid at ASU or three kids at ASU that will say something, and the other 79,997 on campus don't agree with them, but then someone will conclude, or of our 6,000 faculty members, 3 will say something, and the faculty over there at ASU, well, they're all crazy.
Specific to a general.
Whatever, and so I just think it's unfair. And now add to that then the misnomer that universities are bastions and training grounds for communists. I haven't met any communists in the universities I've been a part of, and it's just weird. I'm like, where are they? What department are they in? Where are they hanging out? And so there's that. And then somebody said to me, well, we're just producing Democrats. I'm like, really? Over half of our elected officials that have gone to ASU are Republicans. Over half. So how is it that we're producing only Democrats? We're a very balanced institution. We welcome all voices. We welcome all views, all stripes. Some people don't like to hear some of these other people, but we welcome them also. And then we get arguments going on, and people say, isn't it really terrible, all the things going on over there at the university? I'm like, well, no, the arguments are fine.
You seem to have a bias towards innovation, if anything.
Yeah, innovation in the university, innovation in our structure, innovation in how we do things. And that's one of the great things about Arizona is there's nobody here saying, oh, you can't do that, you can't do that.
Well, I want to pivot a little bit because we have such a dynamic economy here.
Yeah.
It's growing by leaps and bounds. And I'd love for you to talk a little bit about your innovation zone, speaking of innovation, and how that is addressing some of this incredible growth that we're seeing.
Yeah, so what we decided to do is that if you look at a map of the university, I'd be happy to send this out to any of your listeners. We got one little chart. So we show our 4 academic campuses. They're kind of a cross-cut from the West Valley campus in West Phoenix to the downtown campus to the Tempe campus to the Polytechnic campus in East Mesa. Then we have now 7, 8, 9 places that we call either an innovation zone, a science park, a research park, or something to that effect. And so we have thousands of acres. Each one is developing within its own community: Mesa, Tempe, Phoenix, Scottsdale.
Outside of the main campuses.
Yeah, they're out. And so these places are places where we have a presence, we have activities, and then our job there is to bring people together who, by gathering together, can become more effective in their business. They have better access to our students. They have better access to our faculty. They have better access to each other. We are building amenities. If you look at our Skysong place, there's apartments there, there's a hotel there, there's restaurants there, there's dozens and dozens of companies there. If you look at what we call the Novus Innovation Corridor in Tempe, right? It's on the ASU campus. It's on the Tempe campus there. We have restaurants, apartments, hotels, offices, buildings, and so what we're doing is we're using these innovation zones, these innovation sites, and these creativity centers like the one we have in downtown Mesa, where the most significant digital creativity center in the world is now in downtown Mesa in a partnership that we have with the city of Mesa, and we're expanding that and evolving that. So what happens there is that all this energy, let's just take Mesa, all this energy around digital creativity is eventually going to concentrate in downtown Mesa. So new things will happen. Drone technologies and gaming technologies and new ways of producing visual communication techniques and advanced computationally enhanced graphical engines, all these kinds of things. That's what we're doing. On our innovation zone at the Polytechnic campus in East Mesa, out at the old Williams Air Force Base, the Phoenix Mesa Airport, there we just put in a massive new school called our School for Advanced Manufacturing and Network Engineering. That's sitting on a 400-acre site where we're going to be attracting the most advanced manufacturing companies in the country and from around the world. Already, we've got people from Japan, from Korea, from all over the United States, from Taiwan, everywhere who want to be a part of all the things that are happening in Phoenix. And so our innovation zones, our innovation districts, and our creativity centers are all a part of this mix.
Will it start to branch outside of Arizona as well?
Well, we have one in Los Angeles also.
Okay.
So there, what we have are 2 facilities in downtown Los Angeles that are concentrating on the film and communications industry and the fashion industry. So in those cases, we have both of those schools here in Phoenix, but those schools can be ever more powerful and ever more creative, based also in Los Angeles, with students moving back and forth between the 2 places. So yes, and then we have a research center in Bermuda called the Bermuda Institute for Ocean Sciences.
A little disappointed there wasn't triangle in there somewhere.
Well, the triangle's off to the side. You just need to stay out of there.
Okay.
And then on the Big Island in Hawaii, we're evolving with partners a 2,400-acre teaching campus related to understanding conservation. We have 6 small research vessels, a major research aircraft, and 3 laboratories, all focused on trying to manage our way into the future where we don't lose the coral reefs, we don't lose the fish supply. We conserve in the right way. We make things happen. So we have those assets, and then we also have a small innovation center in Dubai, and then we have dozens and dozens and dozens of international partners where we're working. So we're about as out there as you can get.
Is this perhaps a glimpse of what your vision is for the future of higher ed? This idea that you don't have necessarily centralized campuses, but you also have these innovation zones that are tied to major parts of the economy?
Yeah, so America's universities have been unbelievably important to our success. So of the signers of the Declaration of Independence, half of them had been to college. Think of that, in 1776.
Sounding,
Yeah, almost no one went to college then, and half had been to college. George Washington took a short course in surveying at the College of William and Mary. Jefferson and Franklin didn't go to college. He just started one called the University of Pennsylvania.
Nice.
Hamilton, he didn't sign the Declaration, but one of the founders. And so I think what will happen over time is that the universities will be more ubiquitously present in people's families, in their homes, in their businesses, in their companies, and so that there's a few of us out there that are doing this, and we're one. So I would say more present, more active, more engaged. We have 200,000 degree-seeking students.
Well, and it sounds like more relevant too for people.
Yes, more relevant to their lives.
Where they are. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Let's pivot a little bit to semiconductors and what's happening here with TSMC. A huge challenge from just an engineering standpoint in terms of making sure we have enough engineers. How is ASU meeting that need, which seems to be growing every day?
Well, TSMC didn't locate in Phoenix for just the beauty of the desert at that particular location.
I think it was the chamber.
Or just the 3,000-acre site that they had or whatever it was. I mean, one of the factors was that we also have the largest engineering school in the country and a very large research program in semiconductors and so forth and so on. So they offer to us, I say this if you watch the movie Independence Day, when they blow up the White House and they blow up the Empire State Building and they blow up the building in Hollywood, that's not what they're going to blow up. They're going to blow up TSMC. why are they going to blow up TSMC? Because TSMC is the place that these unbelievable 5 nanometer, 3 nanometer, 2 nanometer chips are going to be made. Billions and billions and billions of transistors on a single chip. Most advanced technologies ever made by humans, driving AI, driving all of the new industries, helping us to generate more wealth, helping us to make these things happen. What we're doing, we now have a vice president focused on nothing but TSMC and our
dedicated to just TSMC
and a whole team. And so that's the largest foreign direct investment in Arizona's history. We're already the source of 30% of their employees, according to them. And so where we are with them is building and expanding our relationships with them at every level, in Taiwan, here, other companies that will be coming here, other research organizations that will be coming here, other clustering that will be going on here. So we're planning another innovation zone up there adjacent to TSMC. We're planning in that to be of the greatest service possible. That technology base with Intel, with other things that are already here, the high-tech stuff that's here, Phoenix already is just off the charts going to be the most important place for the future of digitally based technology going forward. And so we're a part of that, helping to make that happen, scaling to make that happen. Largest business school in the country, largest engineering school in the country, largest number of STEM majors in the country of any institution. And we also have more humanities majors than we've ever had. So we're not giving up one thing to do the other. We've got both. So.
I appreciate that. Thinking about, obviously this is a need that we're looking at today, and I know you've thought about this and are thinking about this, but certainly everyone's focused on AI and what that's going to mean and how are we going to educate people around AI. I understand that you see that as more of a complement versus a technology that's going to subsume us.
Yeah.
But how are you thinking about it?
This thing about subsuming, I mean, it's like if you watch, the movies about the run amok technologies of the future, Terminator and all that stuff. I mean, that's just not going to be the way things go. So every time we've encountered these new technologies, so we encountered this new technology a few thousand years ago called writing, written language, and Socrates was against that. He thought teaching should be verbal, all by memory. And then a few
Socratic method.
Yeah, a few years after that, we got books. Mm-hmm. And so there were a lot of people that were against that. And then we got computers, and then we got the internet, and then there was this and this and this. And so you have to look at what we call augmented intelligence, what most people call artificial intelligence. One, it's not intelligent. It's a machine. Machines can do intelligent functions, but it doesn't have an intelligence.
It's not necessarily sentient.
It's not, you got to be stronger than that. Okay. It is not and never will be sentient.
Okay.
And so its sentience is you're sentient, and so a machine that's programmed by us is a machine. It's a calculator. So here's how it works. And I use AI tools all day, every day, all the time for all kinds of things. It's fabulous. I get to ask a question. It goes out and finds every digital bit of information that exists related to that question, all of it in the entire world, everything ever recorded on the internet. It finds all of it.
Amazing.
And in every digitized book, every digitized audio show, every digitized television show. And then it does a probabilistic calculation at the fastest speed ever managed by human beings to then say, this is the most likely answer to that particular set of words that you just asked me. Ask the question with 3 different words, and you don't get the same answer. Ask the question with 2 additional sentences, you don't get the same. I've experimented with this. So here's what's going to happen. So eventually, and we've got a class, we've got programs under. Right now we have 50 AI tools that we're using at ASU. We've got 3 AI tools available to our students. Those are augmentations. They're not replacements.
Okay, and they're encouraged to use these in their learning.
Everything. Okay, whatever they want. So we're not replacing anyone because of AI. What we're looking to do is to augment what we can do. How can we teach more? How can we teach faster? How can we take a 4-year degree to a 3-year degree? How can we help a student to do 2 majors or 3 majors or 4 majors in a 4-year time frame? How can we help speed the learning process? So there was an experiment just done when they had an AI tool that they trained to do the equivalent of a PhD dissertation in biology, which would normally take a couple years.
Sure.
Took 2 weeks. Okay, well, maybe the future PhD student does what used to be 1 dissertation, they do 20. They do 20 times as much discovery.
I see.
So if we accelerate to 20 times as much discovery, we're going to be moving to attack cancer and defeat it 20 times faster.
It doesn't replace, it amplifies.
It amplifies. And so this is so there may be a disruption. There certainly will be. There may be a disruption here or there, but what will happen is not what people think. So this was illustrated the other day by one of my faculty colleagues, Arthur Demerick, who's a historian of science and technology. So he said there used to be that you could go to a person's house and they would be a craftsman and they made needles. They could make 10 needles in a day. So therefore, the number of needles that were out there to help other things happen that required needles, it could be advanced systems or sewing or whatever. You couldn't do these other technologies because you could only make 10 needles a day. So then all of a sudden someone built a machine that could make a needle, and now the same person could make 10,000 needles in a day. Well, guess what happened? More and more things grew, more jobs, more this, more that, using needles, because more and more and more and more and more. And then after a while, you needed millions of needles to do things. And so then all of a sudden, we built machines that can make the needles and machine tools. So eventually you have not the person making the needles one by one by one by one. In small increments, the way that innovation works, driven by a person or two people or three people, start changing this, start changing that, and the economy will start expanding. So the way that the economy has expanded from the flat thing that it was between year creation and 1870, flat, or 1770, flat, and then all of a sudden, straight up, that's all technology. This is that technology now in an accelerated way. So yes, does it need to have boundary conditions? Yes. Does it not to be used for evil outcomes? Yes.
But that's anything, right?
It is anything. This is a little bit different than that because you can say to it, give me a formula for this chemical that can do this damage.
True.
And then figure out how to do that. Now you can go to the library and you figure all that stuff out, but it just does it for you instantly. So what we really have to do is we just have to embrace this notion that we are to the point now where we as a species are so augmented by these calculators that there's very little that we're not going to be able to figure out how to do.
So a lot of people see AI as sort of something that akin to a scarcity model. You see it as an abundance model that's going to be a multiplier for society. It's going to be.
Well, think about the world before books. Most people were illiterate. Most people were not only illiterate, they were stupefied. I mean, they had no idea how anything worked. They had no understanding of anything. I mean, it's
you had the church.
Well, I'm not going to say that, but you had these models that you inherited, and so now with books, the world has just been transformed. Well, this is like that, only greater and faster.
So I've got to ask, what does Michael Crow use AI for in his daily life?
Everything. So when I'm driving to work, I use the Gemini tool to basically I'll pick a subject that I don't know enough about, and I'll get myself educated in like 22 minutes or 25 minutes.
Quick podcast for you?
No, I ask it questions. So I have one that you can dialogue with back and forth. So,
okay.
And then it learns from the questions that you ask. Then I use it for, I've written 20 white papers myself without using others since November on topics that I wanted to put together a series of ideas. And so I would use that to iterate. I use it for basically quick analysis of really complicated things that I don't have enough facts, So the Russian Navy has been largely destroyed, but what do they have left? And how does that work? And how functional? I'll say, go out and give me the last 15 European news stories on, and then it will synthesize those for me. And so I also use it for current events. I use it to study how it works. So
how so?
I'll ask. I think one system I've asked like 9,000 questions of one system. And so I'm trying to figure out like what can it do, what can't it do, how does it work? I've used it to drive people to listen to things that I can't draw. So we have this facility, this site in Hawaii, and we're trying to figure out what to build there. So I said, build me something on this site near the village of Hawi, on the site called Iole. I need it to be able to do this, and this. I need it to be made of organic materials. I need it to blend in with nature. It draws the whole thing for me. For the West Valley campus here in Phoenix, I said, I want you to fit in with the architecture of the West Valley campus of ASU. I want to design an interdisciplinary forensics institute that has 50 research faculty, 2,000 students, and all the labs necessary to be a leading site in criminal forensics, computer forensics, legal forensics, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then it drew this entire addition to the West Valley campus for me. And so what I'm finding on those kinds of things is it's just literally unbelievable.
Well, you certainly epitomize this model of a lifelong learner.
Yes.
You're always wanting to learn more.
Well, so yeah, I've trained myself. I've been trying to understand all things about quantum entanglement. And so I was reading a very complicated
Fascinating.
book. I was reading a very complicated book called The Rigor of Angels, in which they take a poet, Borges, a physicist, they take Heisenberg, and they then take a philosopher, Kant, and they basically say, how did each of the three of them get to an understanding of what quantum theory really means, which is that all the particles of the universe are related to each other, relatable to each other, and are inseparable from each other in a unique kind of way that's hard to understand. So as I'm going through this, then I'm using that book as my course, and then everything I don't understand, everything I need to then understand at a different level, so I can say, I have to understand, why it is that at these smaller sizes, 10 angstroms, 1 nanometer, why electrons can be both characteristically like a wave and like a particle. And so this tool has allowed me to understand things that I wasn't really capable of understanding in really significant ways.
It's fascinating. I think that probably the one way you could violate the speed limit with regard to the speed of light.
Yes,
Two particles across the universe can move at the same direction at the same time.
Well, and they're connected somehow. We don't understand. Right. We don't understand why. So for not only for that, but for, it's been very useful to me in as I go back and I read a lot of stuff, and then I want to ask questions about it, like I'm talking to the book. So I will say, go back to Doris Kearns Goodwin's book, Team of Rivals.
In
that part where Salmon Chase is offering up himself for resignation at the time that he's about to run against Lincoln while sitting on his cabinet in late 1863 before he's going to possibly run for president in 1864. What's going on? And so then it'll find exactly that. It has the book. It has all the historical facts that she has in the book. And now it's talking to me. So it's like the most unbelievable thing you can imagine.
Yeah, a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Let me pivot a little bit. When you talk about leaders in Arizona, and certainly in your time here, you're one of those undisputed leaders in our state. How has your vision or your philosophy behind leadership changed in that time, or has it changed?
I think that leaders basically, if you want to be a leader, that means you've decided that you're going to push ideas, try to gather people around your ideas, try to sell the ideas, try to listen to other people and modify the ideas. A leader means you're trying to show the way. You're trying to make something happen. You're trying to move out to solve certain things. Otherwise, you're not a leader. And so how has my view of leadership changed in Arizona? I think Arizona is more open to leadership. I think it's more open to new ideas. It was before, but now I think even more. I mean, Arizona is a place you can show up here, start talking about what you want to do, and you can argue here. And for the most part, people are respectful. A few people aren't, but yeah, that's fine. They're always
everywhere.
Some jerk in high school that would argue all the time, whatever. But I think that the opportunity for leadership in Arizona is significant. I think the municipalities have a way in which they operate with a nonpartisan city council structure and a city manager structure. So you have this both politics and executive. I think it's a very, very effective place. Things happen here.
Even in such a fractured, I guess, world that we live in today.
Yeah, I don't really believe that we're as fractured as people think. I mean, we've got some arguments going on, but compared to what? There's a book I ask people to read all the time when they tell me things are fractured. There's two books, in fact. One is called The Glory and the Dream by William Manchester, and it's about American history 1932 to 1972, just those 40 years. The opening scene is the Army with tanks putting down military veterans who are not riding, but they're demonstrating over their lack of bonus payments from World War I, and they're killing people and shooting people and stabbing them and running over them with the tanks. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
And that was the Army. not the police, the Army, under the direct order of President Hoover. And then it goes on and on and on. I'm like, really, our democracy is designed for argument. Get over it. Our democracy Congress is a place so beautiful. The Capitol is so beautiful. And everybody gets elected, and they bring the 435 members of the House there and the 100 members of the Senate there. And then the 50 states in the Senate get to argue with their 2 delegates. And then the House representing the people, turning over every 2 years. How could it be anything other than an argument? It's meant to change every 2 years. It's meant to be a voice of the people. And so the people are going to speak. I don't like this. I don't like this. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? What about this? What about that? And so to me, it's like we need to make the arguments civil. We need to make the arguments cogent. We need to not have the arguments manipulated by fake AI systems and other kinds of tools that are manipulating facts and so forth and so on. But we need to allow the arguments to occur. And so Arizona is one of these places where I don't believe that there's misalignment. The Center for the Future of Arizona, run by my roommate and wife, Sybil Francis. I mean, what her center says is that there are several areas where people have shared public values in Arizona, shared visions of the future. And I think what people should do is look at those kinds of things and say, okay, now how do we get to those things? Now we might disagree how we get there, but let's not disagree on the fact that that's what the people want. So one of those things is healthcare, affordable healthcare for everyone. That's one of the things that's a shared public value in Arizona. Well, we haven't figured that out. We need to figure that out. We can't just keep grinding the wheel, throwing our hands up, not knowing what to do, having people off healthcare, having people go to the emergency room we need solutions. And so the only way to move on solutions is to recognize the shared value. People want affordable healthcare. People want that. And then now to start working on it relentlessly. Arguing, experimenting, arguing. That's how you get things fixed.
So I've heard it said that we like to admire the problem here. What's your reaction to that?
I think what we like here is we want the problem to solve itself. So it's what I call a laissez-innover, not laissez-faire, the French phrase, but laissez-innover. Let's just let innovation happen, and maybe it'll solve the problem. So I'm a strong supporter of school choice, but if you do that with no boundary conditions, or you do that in a way where you don't have high expectations for outcomes, or you do that where some people can, take public resources and not produce high school graduates, well, you got a problem. And so what we need is wide openness to innovations with high expectations for performance and outcomes. And so what we need is, I don't think there's a lack of people that are attempting to just study the problem, I think that there's not enough focus on producing and measuring the result. You can get more done here, but people have to want to get it done. And so many people are not from here. So there's a large number of people that are connected to Minnesota or Illinois or California or Mexico or wherever their families came from. That's fine. There's no problem with that. But at some point, people in Arizona have to say, this is my place. This is the place that I am. This is, I see it here, all these people with the bumper stickers on their car, Chicago Cubs and Minnesota Twins and all these other kinds of things. And I'm like, okay, that's good. But if you have a large percentage of the population that thinks that way, then they're transient to the building of Arizona to being a exemplar laboratory of democracy for our republic. And so I just think we need, I've thought that Arizona I've even said we should start referring to ourselves as the Republic of Arizona, like they do in Texas.
Texas,
yeah. And so we're a part of the American Republic. We're one of the states, and we need to start acting and thinking like we're a part of this big country, the United States. But we need to start acting and thinking like a country. We're already a massive economy. We're already a massive place. We're on the move. We're making these things happen, and it just can't be overlooked as a transient kind of thing. So, for instance, we don't have some of the long-range thinking we have that we need about water or energy. Mm-hmm. We haven't worked those things out yet, and so we need to.
And they're not just going to work themselves out.
They're not going to work themselves out, and the market will not be the only way they work themselves out.
Well, it's clear that you're not going to just sit by and hope that ASU changes. So let me ask you, what are some of the things we'll see in ASU in 10 years?
I think ASU will further emerge as one of the greatest centers for knowledge creation, technology creation, and innovation that people have ever made anywhere. So our new school of medicine and medical engineering, our new school for technology and public health, our new Global Futures Laboratory, our brand new school for the future of conservation. What you're going to, all these names imply solution, solution, solution. And so ASU is going to become a place, because of our technological capability, literally a part of every family, literally a part of every company, literally available to every veteran, every kid, every person that's struggling, every kid that's in reform school, everybody that's getting out of prison, whatever it is. So you can't write off somebody that's getting out of prison. That's like, okay, you served your time, you did something stupid. Now let me help you get on track, because if I don't get you back on track, I'm going to be paying for you down the road. And so I think that ASU will reach more people, impact more outcomes, become more valuable to the people of Arizona, become more valuable to the people of the United States, become more valuable in terms of leading how we're going to solve things. And this is true. Our most powerful graduates now, by the way, are English graduates and music graduates that can code.
How so?
They have broader exposures to thinking. And so I urge everyone to double major, triple major, everyone. My kids hated it.
Yeah, I'm sure they did.
They all double majored, all three of them.
Well, I have no doubt that we'll get there under your leadership. Thank you for spending so much time with us and for everything you're doing for our state. We're going to do a quick lightning round with you, as you know we love to do. And I'll start with this, and I can't wait to hear this answer, but book or person that changed your life?
Oh, that's hard for me. I mean, I am a book nut.
Yeah.
And so, there's people that I've read about that are just so astounding to me. Abraham Lincoln being one, not formally educated, unbelievable wisdom, unbelievable leadership. Teddy Roosevelt, just this unbelievable focus on the success of the United States, from creating national parks to making things happen. People that have just made things happen. I watched this NPR series on the women's suffrage and the right to vote for women, and what it took to make that happen. Decades and decades and decades of perseverance. And then finally there were these two wives of two members of the Tennessee legislature. One was a mother and one was a wife. That said, now listen, there's no reason for you to come home. if you don't understand that this thing has got to pass. So this was the last state to ratify it. And so there's this our country, our culture is just so filled with these unbelievable heroes. And so all of that.
All of them. Excellent. Okay, well, I can go with that. I love the book as well. Best advice that you ignored at first but shouldn't have?
I would say best advice that I ignored at first but shouldn't have, probably learn more. I was always doing that, but this was really, and then move faster.
And then finally, and I think I know the answer. I think you talked about it already, but I'm going to ask it anyway because I'm fascinated. What is something you truly wish you understood?
Well, I'm trying to understand, how it is that we can go back to Carl Sagan. So Carl Sagan says that all of us are made up of star stuff. So in your body and in my body are atoms from stars. Now that gives me encouragement. Mm-hmm. It means that this universe, God's creation, if you believe that, or nature's outcome, if you believe that, either way, it's the same.
Yes.
And so somehow we are all deeply connected, and we're on this planet. We're circling this star. The planet is moving while orbiting. The star is moving while we're orbiting it. The solar system is moving inside the galaxy. The galaxy is moving itself. All these things are going on, and I just want to understand, how all these things are connected, because they have to be connected. And then on top of that, we are, as far as we can tell, thus far, the only creature capable of understanding all of this at the moment, as far as our understanding. And so why do we understand all of that? And what is all of that for? And so I focus on trying to understand those things.
Oh, you definitely went big on that one.
Yes.
And you didn't disappoint. Well, and we'll end on a light one. Okay, if you could have any superpower, what would it be?
Superpower? Oh.
Barbara Barrett, I think, said flying, which I thought was a good one.
Oh, no.
But what's yours?
I would, I think my superpower would be to find a way in which the process of aging could be better understood by really understanding, who we are, what we are, why we're here, all those things.
That would be tremendous.
Yes.
Or maybe even a little reverse entropy, at least for a while, so we could get younger for a while, get some hair back.
Well, the thing about entropy is that there's a famous story by Isaac Asimov where about 70 years ago, he wrote this story where we get supercomputing and then we get AI along the way. And then all of a sudden humans, because we have these computational systems, we become masters of the universe. And pretty soon there's trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions of humans across the galaxy, across all galaxies. And then billions of years are passing and the stars start fading out because they've burned up all of their energy. And then the galaxy, through entropy, the universe is then moving back to its original state. But this supercomputer has been this thing. And so then at the when it all then is compressed back to its natural state and it's back all compressed again, where the entire known universe can fit into this tabletop if you shrunk out all of the spaces between the atoms. I don't even know how he figured this out, how he figured out computing and science. And it says, then the first thing it did is then the computer said, well, let there be light. And then the process started over.
Giant rewind button.
Giant rewind button.
Absolutely. Well, you never disappoint.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I really, really enjoyed it.
Okay.
And thank you for everything you do.
Okay, great. Thanks.
All right. Thanks for tuning in to Let's Talk Business Phoenix. Now, if you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow or subscribe to our channel so that you never miss an episode. We're glad that you could join us, and we look forward to seeing you next time.